Hey everybody, welcome to the second part of the new Minecraft Snapshot. If you missed the first video, it's linked below. It's about finding sniffer eggs, hatching them, all of that good stuff, so feel free to check it out. Here we're going to cover just about everything else. It's a big snapshot, so let's start off with trail ruins. So you might walk by this little patch here at first glance and not think much of it, but obviously the terracotta stands out a little bit. This is just the very tippy top of a gigantic brand new structure that now generates in 1.20 called a trail ruin. These can generate in a bunch of different biomes, and you just notice it by, well, some suspicious gravel sticking out of the surface or various other terracotta blocks that can be quite colorful sometimes. And this, you can start to dig down, and it goes a long way. So here, I'll just start, brushing off some of the suspicious gravel here, and you can find a bunch of different pottery shards. You can find things like a brick, which is not terribly interesting, but hold on. Let me just switch on over into Spectator really quick. And it's hard to get the full scope because obviously most of the blocks in here are not in contact with air. But the ones that are can kind of outline just how big of a structure this is. So it starts up there, comes down, you see some of the glazed terracotta down here, and then it heads over in this direction quite a huge amount. And all of this is all part of one single generated trail ruin. And as we go through, you'll see at least the ones that have air exposed on one of the sides. You'll see some suspicious gravel and suspicious sand that are sticking out on occasion. But it's all filled in. It's all solid. Here's a suspicious sand, suspicious gravel. Here we'll jump back into creative and just be kind of floating in the middle of these two blocks here. But we can see what else we can find, which is, all the things that you might find in suspicious sand and suspicious gravel elsewhere. Cool, some pink glass. But also, it is possible to find some unique to trail ruin armor trims, which we might have a hard time actually finding naturally here. But, you're going to have to dig through all this, right, in survival mode, mine all this stuff out, and it's a great place to be able to find tons and tons of suffocation. Breaking suspicious sand accidentally, and hopefully that wasn't an armor trim, otherwise that would be really unfortunate. But yeah, it would take quite a while to go through this thing, and you just got to be careful to not, shatter the things that are interesting, which we haven't gotten a great deal yet, although this is one of the new pottery shards, of which there are just an absolutely gigantic amount of pottery shards that have been added in this snapshot. So we can go over here and we can check them all out. Well, first I can just search pottery shard here, and you'll notice we're up from 4 to, I think it's 20 now. So a lot to choose from, and here I've just, I've laid them out all on some pots here, so you can see all the different ones that are available. And this is no longer a wob. It's great. Well, I thought it was maybe, there to commemorate me making all these wobs throughout the years, but here you go. Just lots and lots. Obviously, you can put up to 4 different ones on a single pot, but I just, I did one at a time so you could see them all in one quick glance here rather than having to pivot around. So, trail ruins. That's basically them. If you get lucky, inside of, the suspicious sand, the suspicious gravel, there are 4 new armor trims that you're able to find. There is the Wayfinder armor trim, the Razor armor trim, the Shaper armor trim, and the Host armor trim. They're all fairly similar looking, and they all have, as far as the item itself goes, they all share the bordering colors with just a different design in the center, all to sort of indicate that they do come from trail ruins. There is another armor trim that has been added in this snapshot, and it looks really cool. This is the Silence armor trim, and you can find this in ancient cities. It has nothing to do with the trail ruins, but while we were on the topic of armor trims, I figured we might as well lay this one out next to it. Also, maybe worth mentioning for those of you who haven't seen the other video yet, which is that Suspicious Gravel, new to this snapshot, it's also been added into Cold Ocean Ruins, and Suspicious Sand you can also find in the Warm Ocean Ruins. So Again, check out the other video if you want to see more on that. So, over here with this new trim, I wrote down you can find it in an ancient city. But I totally forgot to write down on these where I find it. Oh, right, trail ruins. But I should probably write that down so that I don't forget. So I'm going to right-click the sign and just add another line for trail ruins. And I could do the same here. Right-click the sign and add another line and edit it. You don't have to break the sign anymore. You can just right-click it like you've been able to do in mod packs before. I don't remember what mod specifically adds it, but whew, that's a game changer. Not only is it the only thing that you can do with right-clicking the sign, but also, let me put down a sign on the ground here, has both faces exposed. I'll write that down there, and then let me go to the other side. Maybe add some text over there. We can add it on both sides. Isn't that awesome? And you can do the same with the hanging sign, right? You can put hang, and then if you right-click with an item in your hand, it won't do anything. It has to be an empty hand. But ing. There you go. Text on both sides. Okay, but now I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking, but early game, before I have a bunch of item frames, I will often sign label my storage system. And in mod packs, when you have signs on chests, right? And this is my stuff chest. And you can, edit the sign. Sometimes you misclick really quick, but you hit the sign, you're like, oh, now I'm in the edit thing. I just wanted to open the chest. Now the sign's getting in the way. Well, don't worry. You can actually wax the sign. And now it can't be edited anymore, so you can't, misclick the sign instead of the chest and go into edit mode, and it's just a silly little pain point. But still, it's nice that they thought about that. Also, maybe worth mentioning on the armor trim side of things, it's a bit of a brain twister to keep track of. The Dune armor trim is now a brand new pattern. The Sentry armor trim is now what the Dune armor trim used to be. And then the old Sentry trim is now the Shaper trim. What this used to be the Sentry. So, minor details don't really impact much, but all in all, it's just, you end up with, this is new. Okay, I've saved this part for last because I feel like there's a chance I might misstate something and the comments are going to be like, oh my goodness, he's a fool. Anyway, so there's a new Skulk sensor and also new Skulk sensor behavior. Let's start off with the new behavior. So I'm going to grab a Skulk sensor and some blocks of amethyst. I have a Skulk sensor over here, and existing Skulk sensor behavior is such that when you feed in different types of movement, sounds, things like that into a Skulk sensor with a comparator attached to it, it'll output a corresponding signal strength. So me just, walking around does a signal strength of 1. It's not enough to light the lantern there. If I place a block down, it'll do a much bigger signal strength. I believe they've revised the tables with this snapshot, and so that would now be a signal strength of 13, right? So plenty to be able to light the lamp right there. If I break a block as well, I believe that's a signal strength of either 12 or 14 now. I'll B-roll the table of frequencies and sounds up on the screen so you can see that. Anyway, that's how it has worked up until now. But now, if I put down another Skulk sensor over here, and I put a block of amethyst adjacent to that, what it will do is vibration resonance. So, if I walk here, right? You hear that the little ding. The ding is coming from the amethyst block. And that amethyst block is now transferring that same vibration of me walking to the other Skulk sensor over there. So it just allows you to have this way to transmit a particular signal over a distance. And you can also chain these together. So I can have this one here, and then I could have another one here, right? And then if I get out of range of the second one, so I'm just triggering off the first, it'll double transmit the signal all the way through to the furthest Skulk sensor. And then, if I do a different thing, like placing a block down, then it will transfer the signal that is strong enough to be able to illuminate the lamp. And I break it, and same thing. And every different input vibration frequency corresponds to like a different pitch that's emitted by the amethyst block there. So kind of a cool way to transmit sounds and make cool dings and stuff like that. Okay, so that's the new behavior change. Now let me show you the new block. So if we put a skulk sensor in the center and surround it on 3 sides by amethyst, we get a calibrated skulk sensor. And if nothing else, it's a very cool looking block. I mean, look at this thing, right? It's got this amethyst coming up in the center and then this vein coming out of it. And it is important which side this vein is on, because I was like, for 10 minutes, just being like, this is not working. What is going on? Is it busted? Is it bugged? No. You have to make sure that the input redstone signal side is on this side where you have that vein of amethyst coming out. That's very important. So this skulk sensor filters different kind of sounds. It's almost like the inverse of this over here. So right now I have this book on 13, right? And so if walking around corresponds to a vibration of 1, this doesn't pick anything up right now because I'm walking around, I'm jumping, and I can't remember if jumping is 2 or if it's still on 1. Regardless, you see, it's not reacting to me because I have this input signal set to 13 right here. So I'm getting no output at all from the redstone. On the other hand, though, because I'm set to 13, I believe this is n-1. So it would correspond to 12, which is blocks being destroyed. So if I place this down, no reaction, right? But when I break it, all of a sudden we get a redstone output. On the other hand, now let me turn it to 14. So this would be vibration level 13. And if I place the block down, now all of a sudden we get an output. But now when I break it, nothing happens. And then if I, let's go to 6, which would correspond to, I guess, 7 and -1. Once again, this is mobs and players being damaged. So walking around, placing, breaking, nothing. If I go on top of the tree, however, and I jump off, my math is bad. Yeah, I did +1 instead of -1. It should be 8, but still, for whatever reason, it says mob and player hurt sounds. That's not happening. But if I drop the cow from up here, then it does a signal. I'm not a player. Who knew? Maybe I didn't hurt myself enough. Anyway, this thing's sort of been a thorn in my side for this video, with it sometimes being like, I'm not going to work as expected. So that said, I could totally be dumb, or maybe it's just, snapshot, that sort of thing. So anyway, but cool for, filtering out particular kinds of sounds and having a redstone signal output. So that pretty much covers it for this snapshot. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Again, check out part 1 if you want to catch more stuff about the sniffers and the ocean monuments and things like that. But make sure to like the video, sub to the channel, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in the next snapshot video.